Olivia Moses, Wellness Administrator here at Loma Linda University Health in the Department of Risk Management. We are so excited you have joined us today. We have a very important topic, and if you're like many of us, you sit at a desk or you work a lot at your computer. Have you ever had your shoulder hurt or your neck hurt because you've been sitting too long or you've been at your desk for a long time studying? Well, we have the perfect guest for you. I want to introduce you to Lynn Thornstrom. She is ergonomics specialist and a colleague of mine in the Department of Risk Management. So I'm very excited to have her today, and she's going to talk about work shouldn't hurt.
Good evening. I'm glad to be with you tonight, and I'm going to share some information with you regarding ergonomics, which is the fit of work and the people who are performing the work. So it takes into considerations anthropometrics, body measurements. It takes into consideration physiology and psychology, and all of that in response to the need of the worker. It also has to consider the workplace. It has to consider the environment, the physical demands of the job, task demands, and mental demands. So it's a combination of making sure that the work fits the employee. However, it really starts with you. We can provide you an ergonomically sound workstation. However, if you don't use the equipment correctly, then the equipment is not going to provide any benefit to you. So really, a large portion of tonight's presentation is about posture. Ergonomics is about ensuring that your equipment allows you to work from the right posture, but first you have to know the posture to work from. Are you getting a massage on a weekly basis? Did you ever think, how did that not get there? Well, we primarily see musculoskeletal disorders, and those tend to be the reasons that a lot of our employees maybe have some discomfort. A musculoskeletal disorder, also known as a cumulative trauma injury, is an injury that occurs unknowingly to you over a period of time. So by the time you start to experience any of the signs and symptoms, it's already been occurring. And because of that, we do see some late reporting, and I would highly encourage you at the first sign of signs or symptoms that you report those. Recognize the symptoms. Pain. I'm a firm believer God gave us pain to say stop. Something's wrong here. Swelling. No, you shouldn't come to work and expect to swell. Numbness, tingling and burning, changes in skin color, changes in skin temperature, all signs that something's wrong. The risk factors: awkward postures, static postures, repetitive motions, forceful exertions. And doctors are saying they're seeing an increasing number of posturally related health issues, and simply changing your posture can help with things such as headaches, neck and lower back pain, knee and feet problems. So what I'm encouraging you to do, and this is regardless of the type of work that you do, is to work from a neutral posture, a posture in which your body's in a natural alignment. You're not stressing or straining anything. Relax. This is probably the word I have to use 50 times when I'm meeting with people. I ask people, show me the work you do, and they get to attention, and they start constricting muscles at the thought of work. I need you to relax. A constricted muscle is far more likely to tire and far more likely to injure than a relaxed muscle. Believe it or not, this picture had the word ergonomic next to it, and I put the red cross through it. This is not good posture when you're thinking about work. How to sit? Forget that 90 degree rule. It used to be a very rigid picture of the person with elbows at 90, hip torso at 90, and knees at 90. We need to open up all those angles. We need to let that blood flow. So think of it more as 100 and 110 degree angle. Again, forget that 90 rule. And forget your parents telling you to stand up straight. When you do that, there's an automatic throwing back of the shoulders, and again, you're beginning to constrict those muscles across the top part of your chest. Adjusting your chair. I cannot tell you how many times I've met with somebody and they didn't know how to adjust their chair. So if your chair has features on it, please make sure you make yourself familiar with them so that when you're sitting in that chair, it supports you well. So make sure that the seat height is such that your thighs are parallel to the floor. You don't ever want your knees higher than your hips. That can start to cause some low back discomfort. The seat pan, the part that you're sitting on, should be long enough so that you can get 2 to 3 fingers between the front edge of the seat and where your knee bends. A lot of chairs are actually going to have a seat pan slide adjustment on it so that you can adjust it according to your build. The chair back is probably going to have some lumbar support contoured into it. So most of the time, the chair back is going to raise and lower so that you can position that lumbar support in just the right spot for you. And then here's the thing I want you to remember. Get that chair back tilted slightly at an angle. What you're going to do is you're going to shift the load from your spine onto the backrest of the chair, and immediately your neck and shoulder muscles will relax. How you sit in your chair affects all the other postures you'll incur while you're working that day. Best typing posture, literally hands in the lap. You're now sitting very comfortably in that chair and you're just going to fold your elbows and type with your hands in your lap. Primary source of neck and shoulder discomfort for a computer user is relative to the height of the keyboard. If the keyboard's not in this hands in your lap posture, what are your shoulders doing all day long? They're shrugged, and over a period of time, that can result in some discomfort. So you'll see that there's a very open and relaxed posture here. Your monitor. That monitor should be centered with your midpoint, and it should be about arm's length away from you, 20 to 30 inches. The height of the monitor should be adjusted so that your first line of type is at your eye level. And I say first line of type because most pages are going to have a toolbar or something across the top, and that's not really where you spend your time on the monitor. So if you can get that first line of type at eye level, your eye has a natural downward gaze to it, and you can read to the bottom of the page without having to engage your neck at all. And if you need to, tilting your monitor back will actually raise the viewing angle. Tilting it towards you will lower the viewing angle. And I encourage you to play with that because it can also help with glare on occasion. Multiple monitors. Across campus here at LLUH, we're seeing a lot of dual monitors. And how you use your monitors depends on how to set them up correctly. I have 2 monitors, but I'm what you would call a 70-30 user. So my monitors are set up like the top drawing here. That means that about 70% of the time, I'm using the monitor in front of me. I'm doing my report. Now, the monitor off to the side is where my emails pop up. Quick response, I'll respond to it there, but if I'm going to actually have to think about what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag that over into the monitor in front of me. So this allows me to work in good posture with occasional glancing to the monitor on the side. You'll note that the monitor on the side is angled in, and that's because your peripheral vision is shorter, and this way I can pick up a lot of what's in that monitor in my peripheral vision without actually having to rotate my neck at all. If you're more a 50-50, 60-40 user then you want to set them up like the middle drawing here. And this way you're spending equal amounts of time on the one on the right or the left, and you'll see again that they're angled in. And then there's a little bit of logic here if you're using 3 monitors. But again, this will allow you to work without neck rotation and neck flexion.
So Lynn, thank you so much. We are just getting started. Please type in your questions because now's the time that we're going to ask, and you'll have some time at the end as well. So we have one question that came in. Do you have any recommendations when I realize that I am not relaxing when I'm focused on my work?
That goes back to that big finger pointing at you. And my job's easier. I get to tell you what changes you need to make, but you're the one that has to make the changes. And so like any change, it usually takes about 3 weeks to do it. And it's simply thinking of your posture at a level of consciousness until that new habit becomes your better posture. Some people I know have actually set a timer just to make sure that it breaks up their day and maybe get up to a standing position or something, but it really is a retraining.
Okay. So, and I think a lot of us have to retrain on that relaxed
I'm guilty
piece.
myself.
Okay. Another question that we would ask you, talk about chairs in this piece. What if I'm buying a chair for my home? What do I look for? And you can get a $25 one at the discount store. What is your advice for someone buying a chair at home?
That's really a tough one because you get what you pay for. And it really depends on how long you're sitting in that chair. Are you working from home is different than if you sit down for 10 or 15 minute stretches throughout the day. All the same features are of concern. The seat pan depth would be something that you certainly would want to consider. If it's too short or too long, you can end up with some lower extremity discomfort. I use a ream of paper at home for a footrest because I kind of actually have to raise my chair up to get to the right desk height, and so I don't want my feet dangling. I wish there was a good chair that I could just recommend so that everybody could run out and buy it. But it really is kind of a hit and miss, and you always have to determine how it's going to be used.
Okay, no, that's great. Another question we have here is talking about the monitors. Does the monitor slant matter or tilt?
It does. It's a way to correct your viewing.
Okay.
A lot of times across this campus, we're using a lot of Lenovo all-in-one machines, and they sit very tall. So a lot of times with the employees who are a little bit shorter, I have them angle the monitor towards them or tilt it down because it actually lowers the viewing angle. So for the most part, with those machines that are so big, I say don't try to height adjust it. Try to adjust the viewing angle by tilting the monitor. And again, sometimes tilting it can help take away some of the glare that you might be getting from somewhere else in your workstation.
Okay, perfect. So let's say you're at home and you share chairs. Any advice on that one? That's a difficult one. With someone who's taller or shorter than you.
Well, you say share chairs at home, but even let's think about Loma Linda, because we're a 24/7 operation. So we have a lot of employees that don't have their own chair. They're sitting in a chair that someone sat in them the shift before and the shift before that. Adjustability. It really, really has to have adjustability so that you can get the height right for whoever's sitting in it, and you can get the length of the seat pan right for whoever's sitting in it.
Okay, perfect. These are excellent questions. Please keep them coming, and I will let Lynn finish her presentation.
Thank you. Where was I? Here we go. Laptops. Aren't ergonomic. They're fixed positions, so if you have a laptop and the keyboard's in the right spot, your monitor's too low. If the monitor's up high enough for a good viewing posture, then your keyboard's too high. So if that's your only computer, then the best thing to do is to use it with a laptop stand, which will get the monitor up to a good viewing place, and then go ahead and plug in a full-size mouse and a full-size keyboard. At home, my son uses old textbooks to get his up high enough for the monitor to be viewed at a good angle. Your eyes, please, this is one thing that's very important. Get your eyes checked every 1 or 2 years. Give them a break throughout the day. There's a 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, look about 20 feet away for 20 seconds. Blink your eyes. Give them a rest. And now a little bit about eyes and glasses. Progressive lenses don't tend to be a good partner with computer work. Progressive lenses tend to be written for a distance out there somewhere, and your reading distance. And your computer distance, your monitor distance, is somewhere in the middle there. So what employees report to me and what I've read is that you spend a lot of time fishing with progressive lenses, because every time you change the program or the screen, your sweet spot changes. So now you got to figure out where that was. Additionally, if you're using multiple monitors, you lose your peripheral vision with progressive lenses. So there tends to be a little bit more neck rotation as well. A little anecdotal story: I play Scrabble every night with my dad, and one night he came over with his computer glasses on. They're a pair of lined bifocals for computer distance and a reading distance. Well, halfway through the game he goes, "Oh my gosh, these are great glasses," because the Scrabble board was about the same distance as the computer monitor. So it's really about using the right tool for the job that you're doing. Or as an employee told me the other day, her eye doctor asked her about music glasses. She played an instrument and she needed to read the music, which wasn't at a reading distance, but at a distance a little bit further than that. So if you do wear glasses and you're looking at that computer all day long, talk to your eye doctor and see if a pair of computer glasses may not benefit you. Lighting. Think about it, we really haven't changed how we light our offices since we introduced computers to them. And the ambient lighting, the lighting around your monitor, shouldn't be any brighter than the monitor. Our eye will open to the brightest light, and then we're asking it to continually accommodate down to the brightness of the monitor. Think about it. Someone's showing you a PowerPoint presentation. What do? They dim the lights. You're settling in to watch a movie at home. You don't open up all the drapes and turn all the lights on. You tend to watch your TV in a darker environment. It holds true for your monitor as well. Now, your eyes need more light to read. So the best lighting in an office situation is actually a two-tiered system. One where the ambient light level is great for your computer work, and then a task lamp that just lights the task that needs to be read. You don't need to illuminate the whole office to read that piece of paper in front of you. And this is great in shared workstations because those 25-year-old eyes certainly don't need as much light as these 60-year-old eyes do. So this way it lets the individual light the workstation appropriately for them. Now, stand up. I've talked a whole lot about sitting, but it's very important that you're up to a standing position every 40 to 45 minutes. My analogy is the Tin Man in the Wizard of Oz who needs a little oil once in a while. You need to keep your blood circulating. And this is for all the muscles, including this one as well. So walk around for a few minutes every hour. Walking encourages your heart to beat, gets that blood flowing. I tend to sit at my desk and do a lot of stretches. You can see me walking down the hall and I'm exercising my hands as I do it. Movement's good. So get as much movement into your day as possible. I do that with my footrest. I stretch my legs out and then I'll bring them back in. So stay away from static postures, build movement into your day, and work comfortably. Again, work shouldn't hurt. And if you practice good posture, and we've set up your workstation to allow you to work from that posture, you're going to find that the fatigue is reduced, you're comfortable, and based on that, your accuracy, your efficiency, and productivity improves, and most important, we're preventing you from ending up with any kind of musculoskeletal disorder.
So thank you so much, Lynn. That was excellent. We have some more questions, and again, please send them over. What about a standing desk? Does this change any of the ergonomic recommendations versus sitting?
The only things that come into play with a standing desk, and I am a strong supporter of the whole desk coming up. and not the desktop conversions. With the desktop conversions, you tend to have half your desk down, so there's a lot of bending and stooping. So if you get the whole desk up, the postures pretty much stay the same. I do find that I like the keyboard tray at a little bit more of a negative tilt when I'm standing, but for the most part, those need to stay the same.
And when you say negative, just show.
Negative is tilting away from you, so that you have this posture here. You do have to remember, if you're we shouldn't sit all day, we shouldn't stand all day. We really need to moderate our posture there. If you're standing for a period of time, you should probably have an anti-fatigue mat. Some people don't think of that. And then you have to move that out of the way when you pull your chair up. But for the most part, all the postures stay the same when you're working from a standing position.
So tell us a little bit more of your ideas about a sit-stand desk. Or workstations.
From a purely ergonomic perspective, I think all workstations should be height adjustable. I've met with employees who are 4'7" up to 6'7". So we have a little bit of difference there. And for us to think that the standard 29 to 30-inch desk is going to fit that person just doesn't work. We're not there yet, however. So I think as an employer, if we're providing you a desk that's intended to be worked at from a seated posture, let's ensure that you can work from that desk in good posture without incurring injury. And then again, I'm going to encourage you to stand up all the time. I mentioned a minute ago, I'm not a fan of most desktop conversions. They tend to have you give up a very good seated posture for a standing posture. But it's funny, you hear that sitting is the new smoking. However, I was reading up on a cardiologist that I was working with, and in that literature it said standing's the new smoking. So again, it's moderation.
Okay. Now, what we see too, I think sit-stand has been talked about a lot. A lot of times people also talk about the exercise ball instead of your chair.
Exercise is what you just said, okay? Exercise belongs in the gym or at home as far as I'm concerned. The ball is not height adjustable, so we can't ensure that you're going to get it at a good height when you're working on it. The exercise ball is intended for core strengthening. You're constricting all those muscles. So it really is outside of what ergonomics is trying to encourage, is that relaxed, comfortable posture. You can't hold this all day long, and what happens is that you'll end up slouching and working from a poor posture.
Great. So here's another question. I tend to get a little pain after a lot of clicking on the mouse. What do I need to consider?
If you're right-handed, consider left-handed mousing. There was a study done that really encouraged all right-handers to mouse left-handed.
Okay.
We live in a right-hand dominant world, so we tend to overuse our right dominant hand. Mousing with your left hand takes some of that pressure off your right hand, also gets the other side of your brain moving as well. Consider the size of your mouse. Our hands aren't all one size. Mouses come in many different sizes. I'm using a much smaller mouse now that just kind of fits very naturally into the curve of my hand. So consider the mouse. There are some keyboards with built-in touch pads. So there are a lot of different things to consider there. And those are just a few of the options.
Okay, great. And here's a question. This is, again, if you are an employee at LLUH, who do we contact to have an assessment performed?
Me.
Well, that's easy enough.
Thornstrom at llu.edu. The requests do need to come from a manager or a supervisor because they need to be aware of what's going on. But it simply takes an email to me, and then I will schedule to come out and do the assessment for you.
Okay, wonderful. So here's another question. Thank you for all the great information. Is there anything we need to consider when it comes to our children?
Whoa. Not something that I've given a lot of thought to. So I really would just kind of take the information I've shared and scale it down a little bit. We didn't talk about any of the techie devices that we have. I watched a little boy in a restaurant the other day. The parents were having their conversation, and he was down like this all the time. So It's back to posture again. Give them equipment that keeps them in good posture while they're working. In essence, let's teach them right from the beginning.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about when it comes to regard to the entire assessment, on doing an assessment on yourself? So not all of us can call, Lynn Thornstrom to do this. So our community members, what is the best way to just start this on your own?
This is available online. What we're doing right now is available
Yes.
online. There's just some really good tips, and I hope that the PowerPoint presentation has provided enough information to give you a couple of clues as to how to set the workstation up to work for you. But it's just really important to remember to be comfortable.
Okay, and work shouldn't hurt.
No.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being here. We are going to have another Wellness Live. Remember, we come back here every single month at the end of the month. Next month, we are going to be having Senior Vice President Mark Hubbard speaking about your financial wellness. Thank you again for joining me. I'm Dr. Olivia Moses, and this has been Wellness Live.
Catch a little moment, slow down, catch a little moment with you.